Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Fantasy 101 episode. So it's me here again, Antonio, alongside Owen from the Fantasy Hockey Pucks. Now we're going to get into drafting. So we'll start with a Yahoo Draft, okay? We're just going to do a mock draft because we don't have time to set up a full league and get everybody to draft. So as you can see, he's going to be starting the draft, and I will be in the 8th pick. So how we're doing this one is it's going to be 2 centers, 2 left wingers, 2 right wingers, 4D, and 2 goalies. Okay. Alongside that, this is going to be a snake draft, which means that since I'm the last pick, I will have back-to-back picks. And same with him. So when it comes back, he has the first pick, and then it goes through everybody twice and comes back to him. So as you can see on the side here, on the left side of your screen, it goes Owen, all the teams, me, back to me, and then all the teams and back to Owen. All right. So he's going to have the first overall pick. This is going to start in 2 minutes. And we'll go through the first 5 rounds with you. Just going into this, since I have this pick here, and for some reason, Yahoo's rankings are just very bad. I'll be getting Matthews and Marchand, likely, unless Owen decides to pick one of those guys, aside from McDavid and Draisaitl with his first pick, which would not be advised. But since I get those two, I'd probably be looking. We have other episodes on this, like specifically drafting. That's what the majority of our episodes are on this page. If you want to go check them out, but I'm just likely going to be taking those 2 forwards and then going defenseman, and then basically for this taking who's there, probably who's the best. But obviously paying attention. Just the big things that you want to know if this is your first time drafting in fantasy hockey. Don't draft a goalie that high. Wingers are generally more valuable than centers because centers are very deep. Considering if you have the first line center on any team, it's probably going to result in points unless you're talking Buffalo or Detroit. And then you can also see, you can change the stats here. You can look at their projected, or you can look at their last year. Looking at their last year is usually very useful to you because if they did well last year, they're probably going to do well for you this year. Like, look at this. Connor McDavid last year, 105 points. Like, nobody else compares to that if you look at anybody else. The closest is Draisaitl with 84, right? So just looking at stuff like that before your draft, you are able to edit your pre-draft rankings, but you don't have to. For instance, in my pre-draft rankings, I think that Matthews would not be number 10. He would probably be closer to number 4.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as we get this draft going, obviously, Owen, you're likely to go McDavid. Then it's going to auto draft through to me. I'm likely going to take Matthews, Marchand, and then we'll see where this takes us from there. We do actually have our rankings up on our website at the fantasyhockeypucks.com, if I am not mistaken. So we'll get this started.
So me personally, actually, I've never actually picked first in any fantasy thing I've ever done. And if it really was up to me, I would trade this pick for depth because I really don't think in fantasy you should ever rely this much on one person, especially in hockey when depth is so important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's just, if you're in a pick trading league, that's definitely something smart to do. Otherwise, I would just, if you're able to, try and get a pick in the middle of the rounds, which means that your team, in every round, you're going to get somebody in the middle of the herd rather than, say, like Owen in the second round. His second round pick value is going to be very low, and then his third round pick value is going to be high again. So right now, like, he lost out on all the elite value for his second pick, but for his third pick, he's going to have first pick at all of those B-level players that all of the other teams won't have because he's going to have that first pick in the third round. So right here, who did he take? He took Adam Fox, which is an amazing pick because he's probably the best offensive defenseman for fantasy.
Back to back, yeah.
And you have back to back, yes. So I would go a forward here if I was. And I know we rant about Barkov a lot on our podcast. However, he is injured right now, so that's something that we have to take into consideration. And who'd we go? Braden Point, solid pick. Love that guy. Who am I going to take here? Now, considering I have back-to-back picks right here. I'm probably gonna go
Kemper.
Hedman, because I know I need a defenseman. And then likely I will actually take Igor Shesterkin as a goalie high here because he has looked like the Vezina candidate this year. Now, mind you, when you're watching this might have changed. But just if you're watching how we are actually drafting here, we'll go through just this last round 5 here after Owen makes his picks and I make my final pick, and then we'll transition over to ESPN where we have another mock draft set up. The main thing you want to know is the hardest rounds to prepare for are your later rounds, because that's where really you're going to either get your depth or you're going to pick players that are going to end up on the waiver wire and they're going to be not valuable picks. So really, these first rounds are going to make what your star players are, but you can't really go too wrong in these first 4 or 5 rounds. So here I'm going to take Bergeron because I'm a Bruins fan, and Kyle Connor because I need a left winger. It also shows you your team on the right over here. So I have Matthews, Bergeron, Marchand, Connor, Hedman. And for instance, if I go and I look at, say, I go to look at Owen's team. So his team right now is McDavid, Point, Landeskog, Fox, Tavares. And I can easily just go back to players, and then I'm back at this main board here. So with my last pick here, I'm just going to take, let's take, I know Johnny Gaudreau's had a pretty good start to this season, so we'll take him to wrap out the 5th round. From here, we're going to go to ESPN, so we'll see you guys there in just a second.
Okay, so now we're over on ESPN to show you how we would draft on this.
So the pre-draft rankings, the default ones are obviously going to be a little bit different because it is ESPN. As you see here, he's going to go 2nd. I'm going to go 7th just to spice it up, change it up just a little bit. But you'll see instantly how the rankings are different as we go in. As you see, here's the button for edit, just that popped away for edit pre-draft rankings. So we enter the draft room here. They have a very nice setup. I'm not going to lie. I like the aesthetic of ESPN a little bit more, but Yahoo's very much more reliable. So as you can see here, the positions we're drafting are also different on the left side of your page. There's a lot more forwards. There's a lot more bench. And you're not specific to left wing, center, right wing on this one. So drafting centers high is not a bad idea. But as you can see here, they do actually have Matthews 3rd instead of the 10th that they had him in Yahoo. And they have Vasilevsky 4th here, which we are going to avoid at all costs, guys, because we do not take goalies in the 1st or 2nd round. It's just because the value there is just way too much for us to be taking a goalie at that point, even if they're going to be the best goalie in the league. So a couple things to think about here is that I didn't talk about in the last draft is you can queue players, and they're going to come up at the top of your queue list at the top left up here. And from there, once your pick comes, you can pick from your short list there out of who you want. So for instance, since I'm going 7th, I look at the draft board. I'm like, ooh, I might get McKinnon there. So I know Owen's going to be angry about that. He's an Avs fan. But he shows up in the top left there. And when I go to pick, I'll be able to click where that remove button is, and it will say draft, and he will be on my team. A couple other things. Again, 2022 projected 2021 season. This is how you see their actual season stats from last year. You can also sort from positions, skaters, which takes out goalies, which is what I prefer. And then I draft goalies whenever I want to. It's important to watch on the right side of your screen here, though, at the pick side, where different players go, because if there's a run on goalies, you don't want to stick with a very bad goalie as your 1-2 pairing for the year. So you definitely want to get at least one good goalie in there eventually. You can also sort by D if you really need a defenseman or goalie. And so with this type of bench, you have 5 bench spots, and considering the amount of forwards and defensemen you're going to have, I would say that you should probably split that with 3 forwards, 1 defenseman, 1 goalie backup. Generally how I would do it with 5 bench spots. Especially because I believe that there is 8 or 9. Yeah, that's 9 forward spots and 5 key spots. So you just want to maximize it so you have the most people playing at any one given time. All right, so now we're getting into it. The first pick's going to be autoed. McDavid is gone.
Yeah.
Owen, who are you going to go?
So this might
Welcome to the best day of the year.
Best day of the year.
Draft day. Draft day.
This might actually surprise some people. I'm actually not taking McKinnon because in hindsight,
Whoa,
oh wait,
they took Draisaitl.
that's who I had. I was thinking Draisaitl because he's like on an absolute tear, but I'll
He gave
take
you the best player in
McDavid.
hockey.
That
That is crazy. And
Carlson at
another
5?
important thing to note, guys, is if you do change your pre-draft rankings, generally what I do is I keep it on the side. We actually have a Google Sheets if you want to use ours.
yeah, that's
And
super
I
good.
keep it on the side because then I can see what other people see. And if there's auto picks, then I will know who's going to go before me so I can plan for my pick. So here, obviously, I'm going to take McKinnon, get this draft continuing on.
McKinnon at 7 is pretty nasty.
And then I'm going to get his partner in crime. Actually, no, I'll go Pasternak because, I'm a Bruins fan. Black gold till I'm dead and old.
What are we thinking here? Might do what I did last time. Yeah, I probably will.
Grabbed Fox there. It's a good pick. Oh, but you don't see somebody that I do.
I do actually.
Brad Marchand. That's the prime that they have him at 26.
Yeah, one of the really
He's top 10 in scoring. Like,
Yeah,
how do you have him
yeah.
outside the top? You have him at 26?
that's a pretty nasty pick in the 3rd round.
Yeah. Same with like Mitch Marner
Oh wow.
or Cale Makar.
Oh my goodness. These rankings. This is why it's so important to have your own Google sheet, or at least our Google sheet. Just any sort of actual rankings with, a brain.
Yes. Because as you can see, these rankings generally don't. And even though these people say they're experts, they really don't know too much about what they're talking about. So yeah, we'll do the last 2 picks here. Again, you can leave any questions in the comments. We'll be monitoring that. Also DM us on Instagram. We watch that a little bit more closely at Fantasy Hockey Pucks if you want a question answered within that day. We generally are answering questions every day within the normal business hours, even a little bit after, we do tend to stay up at night quite late. And I'll take Jack Campbell here as my goal.
And you can really ask anything. Like we said this in part 1, but you send us a screenshot and say, who do I start? Or say, is this trade good? Or what should I trade? I want to make a trade. What our confidence is in a player. Literally anything. We're literally just like a friend who you can come to and be like, hey, bro, what do you think of my fantasy team? We're that, but we're multiple people behind a phone who have resources. And I've proven, you can check our podcast. I've proven to have great takes that work, except for, everyone.
Ovechkin, okay.
Not everyone can be perfect, but yeah, we're really just like that friend who you can come to and we'll give you great advice.
100%, guys. And yeah, we would recommend that you check out our podcast, especially if you get in a little bit more into fantasy sports, and especially fantasy hockey. Obviously, that's our whole thing. But we have our panic room, which is talking about players that we are worrying about right now. We have make or break takes, which is things, fantasy players, we have their outlook on the rest of the year. We do our weekly scheduling. We do injury reports. We have everything you need to know all within 50 minutes. All right. And with that, I will take Igor Shesterkin, have the most godly goaltender.
I think Freddie Anderson's still there as a goalie.
Yeah, I know, but look at my goaltender duo. I have Jack Campbell and Igor Shesterkin, 2 best candidates this year. Pretty happy with that. And I will take, who's my last player? I will take John Tavares in the 8th round, and that will our draft. And that is exactly why you have to make your own rankings, because John Tavares went in the 8th round. And I'm always scrolling up and down, so I know who's going to be there for my picks. But definitely, as we said in the previous episode, this is a whole series called Fantasy 101. So if you want any more information, feel free to check out the rest of the playlist. And again, contact us if you need any more help. So that's
For sure. It could be the smallest thing. We're free to help.
Exactly. So that's gonna be everything for this episode. This is Antonio and Owen signing out. See you guys.